Welcome to Let's Recap, where we bring the magic of movies to life. Today, we delve into the gripping world of Acrimony, as we dissect its intense story, unforgettable performances, and everything in between.
The movie begins in a courtroom. A judge issues a restraining order against a woman named Melinda and orders her to take mandatory anger management treatment, or she will be jailed. During her therapy session, Melinda blames her ex-husband and accuses him of taking advantage of her. The psychiatrist then asks her about her life, and Melinda reluctantly agrees to tell him everything that transpired. Many years ago, we see a young Melinda bumping into a man named Robert. Later that day, Robert goes to her dorm room to return some documents she dropped during their meeting earlier. Her roommate Sarah insists she talks to him, and Melinda reluctantly collects her documents back from him. She asks him to leave because she has a paper due. Robert, however, offers to teach her because he noticed some errors in her assignment while going through it. Hearing this, she finally agrees to accept his help. The next day, Robert reveals to her his dream of creating a battery capable of charging itself. He tells her the battery would be capable of solving most basic household needs, and it would be very profitable. Over the following days, Robert and Melinda spend more time together, and she begins to warm up to him. Unfortunately, Melinda fails her test, and as Robert comforts her, her sisters, Brenda and June, show up and tell her that their mother is dead. Robert attends the funeral where Brenda and June express their discomfort with having him around, especially when they find out about his poor financial background. They introduce their husbands Casey and Calvin to Robert. They then tell him about Devon, Melinda's ex-boyfriend, hoping to upset Robert, but he doesn't mind. When Robert sees Melinda busy with her family, he tries to sneak out of the house, but Melinda stops him and thanks him for coming. Melinda decides to drop him off at his place since he doesn't have a car, and they get intimate. The pair starts to date, but Melinda's sisters are not happy about their coupling. They believe Robert is only after her money and advises Melinda not to tell Robert about the inheritance their mother left. During their date, Robert tells Melinda about his plan to sell his project to a venture capitalist named Prescott. Melinda promises to stay by his side, and Robert tells her that he would like to marry her one day. Knowing Robert's financial situation and wanting to help, Melinda buys him a car, but a few days later, she stops hearing from Robert. When she calls him, he tells her he has been busy working on his battery project. Suspicious of Robert's behavior, she drives over to his RV where she finds him having sex with another woman named Diana. She was so angry that she crashes her car into his RV. She destroys the windows of the car she bought him and attacks him before passing out. Melinda is rushed to the hospital. Because of the injuries she sustained during the crash, she undergoes a hysterectomy, losing her ability to bear children. Robert tries to visit her at the hospital, but Brenda, who blames him for the accident, forces him to leave. After Melinda is discharged from the hospital, Robert comes to visit her again to apologize, and she forgives him. Not long after they continue dating, Robert tells her he lost his scholarship, and Melinda decides to pay for his remaining tuition fees herself. Moved by her gestures, Robert asks her to marry him, and she agrees, but her sisters refuse to attend the wedding. The following year, Robert spends all his time working on his battery project, while Melinda supports them financially. Robert tries to sell his project to Prescott but fails. Melinda is then forced to get 2 jobs as an office assistant and a janitor, just to keep them afloat. A few months later, Robert is excited because he thinks he's succeeded in making his battery operational. But when he tries to use the battery to power their house, an accident occurs, and he destroys the house's wiring system and puts them into debt. Robert finally graduates from university, and Melinda is excited because she thinks he would now get a job and help support them financially. However, her happiness is short-lived as Robert reveals that he had spent 2 years in prison for theft, and no company would want to hire a felon. When he sees that she is disappointed in him, he tells her he just has to perfect his battery and get an interview with Prescott, and all their financial problems would be solved. Melinda has no choice but to trust him again. She then mortgages her house to finance his research, as she still believes in him. Unfortunately, this routine ends up continuing for 20 years, with him never succeeding with his battery project and never getting a job. Meanwhile, Diana, the lady Robert cheated with, had gotten a job as Prescott's secretary. Robert meets her to arrange a meeting with Prescott, but it doesn't go well. That night, Robert gets a call from Prescott's security, and he is warned not to send any other letter or contact their employees, or else they will call the police. Robert is frustrated, and Melinda begs him to focus on just getting a job for once so he can help support them. Knowing that Melinda would soon lose her house, her sisters come up with a plan to save her. They suggest that they get a loan from the owner of the restaurant, they deliver food, and work for them. Calvin tells Robert that the money should be enough to help them pay their mortgage, but he must always be on time and never miss a payment, or else their trucks would get repossessed. Robert reluctantly agrees and starts working with them, but is unhappy about leaving his project. He stops talking to Melinda as punishment. Meanwhile, Diana decides to give Robert a chance and calls him while he is delivering an important order for the company. She tells him that she has scheduled an impromptu meeting with Prescott, but he has to get there immediately. Robert is ecstatic and he abandons the delivery he was making and goes home to change. Calvin and Casey find him at home. They berate him for messing with their business and decide to deliver the order themselves. As they leave, Melinda also confronts Robert. She tells him that her sister found Diana's purse in his truck and thinks he is cheating on her again. Melinda is so furious that she starts to fight with him on the street until her sisters step in and take Melinda inside the house, while Robert leaves for the interview. When he gets to the company, he tells Diana about the fight he had with his wife, but she tells him to focus on the interview because he would only get one chance to make his dream come true. While Robert was having his interview, Calvin and Casey tell their wives that they were not able to make the delivery on time and would not get paid. During the meeting, Prescott is impressed with Robert's invention and quickly offers him $800,000 for the product, but Robert rejects the offer, insisting that he wants to own the patent for his invention. When Robert gets home, he explains to Melinda that he didn't cheat on her. He tells her he only met Diana for business reasons, but no one believes him. Melinda is angry with him for rejecting an offer that could have helped them all financially and asks for a divorce. Robert is forced to leave the house, which is soon foreclosed. Melinda moves in with her sister and becomes depressed. Meanwhile, Robert is forced to stay in a shelter. Melinda's sisters set her up on a date with Devon, who is also divorced. While on their date, Melinda sees Robert working in a restaurant. Sometime later, Robert meets Melinda and her lawyers. He tries to apologize and smooth things over, but Melinda doesn't listen and he is forced to sign the divorce papers. Later, Robert gets a call from Diana and he tells her about his living situation. She picks him up and offers to let him stay with her, and she comforts him that things will get better. A few days later, Diana tells him that Prescott has offered him a multi-million-dollar deal in which he would retain ownership of his patent. Robert is overjoyed and begins to cry. After all the things that he has been through, his life's work has come to fruition. Robert finalizes the deal and visits Melinda at her office. He gives her a check for $10 million and the keys to her house, which he had just bought back. Melinda is shocked and regrets leaving Robert. She goes home and shows her sisters the check. Melinda angrily blames her sisters for constantly interfering with her relationship with Robert. Melinda then visits Robert at his penthouse and tries to seduce him, but is shocked when Diana shows up and introduces herself as Robert's fiancée. Melinda is furious and humiliated as she runs out of the penthouse. Melinda is mad because Diana is leaving the life that was meant to be hers. As she pictures them together, she is consumed by rage. She stalks them online and finds out that Robert has been buying Diana everything she ever wanted. Later, when Diana is busy with her wedding planner, Robert tells her that Melinda is suing for half of his money, claiming that the deal with Prescott happened before their divorce. During the hearing, the judge examines all the documents between Prescott and Robert and rules against Melinda. Robert then gets a restraining order against Melinda since she has been harassing him and his fiancée. When Brenda and June see just how frustrated and wired up Melinda had become, they urge Robert to hire security for his wedding as they fear that Melinda will try to interrupt the wedding. Meanwhile, Melinda shows up and fights with her sisters for talking to Robert behind her back. Melinda then visits the wedding boutique and destroys Diana's wedding dress with acid. Meanwhile, during their next court case, Melinda learns that Diana is pregnant. Due to the judge's order, Melinda attends therapy sessions. The psychiatrist suspects that Melinda has borderline personality disorder, but Melinda disagrees. The psychiatrist encourages her to see things from Robert's point of view, but Melinda ignores him and walks out of the office. Robert and Diana get married on a yacht, while Melinda's family keeps her at the house to prevent her from doing something rash. However, she manages to sneak out of the house and goes to Robert's boat. She accuses him of wasting the best years of her life and shoots him. Robert tries to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen to him. Melinda makes the crew members jump out of the boat and goes after Diana. Before she can shoot Diana, Robert intervenes and pushes her into the water. Robert tells Diana to start the boat and rescue the crew members. Melinda gets back to the boat and tries to kill Robert with an axe, but her leg gets tangled in the anchor and she is dragged into the water where she drowns, while Diana and the crew members rescue Robert. Let me know what you think about this movie in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.